Good evening. You've come to those who stayed, a quiet place where forgotten hearts still whisper, and every story is a fragment of someone who once waited, who once loved, and who never left. Tonight, I'll tell you one of their stories.
The air in your quiet room is still. It holds the gentle silence of the late hour. You are settled. You are comfortable. And in your hands, you hold a small, worn cloth sachet. The fabric is soft, almost weightless. Its texture is a testament to the passage of many years. As you lift it, the simple movement stirs the air, and a fragrance begins to bloom around you. It is a scent that speaks of sun-baked earth and ancient, wild places. First comes the dry, sweet perfume of wild thyme, an aroma that feels both grounding and expansive. It is soon followed by the clean, slightly resinous note of rosemary, a scent of clarity and remembrance. You bring the sachet a little closer, and the fragrance deepens, weaving itself into the quiet atmosphere of the room. A gentle and welcome presence. This scent is your anchor, a thread of aroma connecting this peaceful moment to a story waiting to be told. Beside your bed, a small stack of faded letters rests on a wooden table, their edges softened by time. You can almost feel the history they hold, the quiet weight of the words written within. You allow your breathing to slow, to find a rhythm that matches the calm of the room. With each gentle exhale, you feel yourself settling more deeply into the softness that supports you. The light from a small lamp casts a warm, golden glow, softening the edges of everything it touches. The weight of your blanket is a comforting pressure, a feeling of safety and stillness. The world outside this room fades into a distant murmur. Unimportant. All that matters is this gentle space, this quiet, and the fragrant air you breathe. You close your eyes, letting the scent of thyme and rosemary be your guide. The story begins not with a loud event, but with a color, a feeling, and the vast, open horizon of a new dawn. Thomas, a young man who carried the quiet expanse of the New Zealand high country within him, remembered his arrival. It was a moment of overwhelming sensory wonder. The memory began at dawn, that sacred time when the world seems to hold its breath, caught between the dark of night and the light of day. His mind was captured, held completely by the color of the Aegean Sea. It was a turquoise, so impossibly vibrant, so pure and clear, that it seemed to belong more to a dream than to the waking world. He had never seen such a color in all his years of watching the glacial lakes of his home. The water was a liquid jewel, so transparent that he could see the smooth, pale stones resting peacefully on the seabed below. He remembered the sound the boat made as it finally met the shore. A low, resonant sigh as its keel grated against the fine, pale sand of the beach. The sound was soft, final. The first step he took onto the land was not a soldier's stride, but a shepherd's gentle press of a boot into the warm, yielding earth. And then the sun, the warmth of the Mediterranean sun, was a golden embrace on his face, a gentle and surprising shock. It was a stark contrast to the biting winds of his home. Here, the air was soft, caressing, and carried the scent of salt and unfamiliar herbs. The memory of that warm sun on his face seems to translate directly into the feeling of warmth beneath your own blanket. The sense of quiet that Thomas felt becomes a feeling of deep peace settling within you. It is the peace of discovering unexpected beauty. You feel the last of the day's tension release from your shoulders, your body sinking another inch into the comfort that holds you, feeling safe and perfectly still. The silence in your room is not empty, but full of a deep and settled peace. And from within that peace, a single sound emerges, a gentle and steady rhythm. It is the slow, deliberate ticking of an old clock somewhere in the house. Tick, tock, a patient and reassuring pulse marking the unhurried passage of time. You feel the gentle, comforting weight of the blanket that covers you. The air on your skin is cool and still, while the space beneath the blanket is a haven of soft warmth. Your breathing has found its own natural rhythm, a slow and easy rise and fall that requires no effort at all. The steady beat of the clock seems to accompany your breath, a gentle metronome guiding you away from the world of thought and into the world of feeling. The rhythmic ticking seems to shift, to soften, blending with the memory of a different kind of cadence. It becomes the sound of slow, deliberate work, of a quiet and focused creation. The story continues with a fundamental human act, the making of a home. Thomas remembered the profound satisfaction of finding a small, hidden alcove in the sun-baked clay cliffs. It wasn't a grand cavern, but a modest indentation, a natural recess in the earth that seemed to whisper a promise of shelter and stillness. His work began there, a slow, methodical transformation of raw earth into a personal sanctuary. He remembered the feel of his small shovel scraping against the packed earth. It was not a harsh sound, but a soft, rhythmic whisper, a sound that spoke of careful progress, of patient excavation. He remembered the feeling of the cool, damp clay beneath his hands, a substance that was yielding yet firm, as if the earth itself were responding to his touch. With the broad, calloused palm of his hand, he smoothed the rough-hewn walls, feeling the subtle undulations and the cool, silken texture against his skin. Each stroke was a deliberate gesture of care. The earthy smell of the freshly turned clay was thick and pervasive, a comforting perfume that spoke of roots and ancient soil. Inside this nascent shelter, a blessed coolness offered a welcome respite from the relentless sun. It was a haven, a pocket of shade and calm. As the small space took shape, a profound feeling of safety began to envelop him. He had carved out a personal refuge in a world of uncertainty. Into one of the smoothed walls, he carefully carved a small, shallow niche. Upon it, he placed his few invaluable possessions: a battered tin mug, a worn book of poetry, and a faded photograph. With these small acts, he had fashioned more than just a shelter. He had created a cocoon, a tiny sanctuary that felt safe and entirely his own. This feeling of a safe space, of a personal cocoon, translates directly to the comfort you feel now. The sense of security Thomas felt within his clay walls is echoed in the gentle pressure of the blanket around you. The steady ticking of the clock feels like a shared heartbeat, a rhythm of stability connecting your quiet room to a small shelter on a distant hill. It is the deep, instinctual peace that comes from feeling safe, from being at home, wherever you are. The earthy, grounding scent of the cool clay seems to linger softly in your quiet room. It mingles with the fainter, imagined fragrance of wild thyme and rosemary drifting in on a remembered breeze. You feel it not as a sharp aroma, but as a feeling, a sense of deep, settled peace that has no need for words. The soft lamplight casts a warm, golden glow, a gentle radiance that seems to permeate the very air, making the shadows soft and welcoming. You lie completely still, feeling the quiet of the house settle around you, wrapping you in its embrace like a second, invisible blanket. Your breathing is slow and even, a gentle tide rising and falling in its own unhurried rhythm. With each soft exhale, you can feel your body letting go just a little bit more, sinking deeper into the support beneath you, releasing the day into the stillness of the night. The story continues, shifting from the cool, dark earth of the shelter to the bright, open heat of the hillside. The imagined page turns in your mind, and the words describe a scent, a fragrance so powerful that it seems to rise directly from the memory itself. In the memory, Thomas was carrying a heavy load of supplies up a narrow, winding track. He remembered the unyielding heat of the day, a tangible weight that pressed down from a vast, pale blue sky. The fine, pervasive dust coated his uniform and his skin. Then he stepped on a patch of low-growing shrubs, their resilient stems yielding beneath his weight. In that instant, an intense, aromatic scent blossomed into the air, overwhelming everything else. It was a sudden, potent cloud that cut through the dust and the heat. It was the unmistakable, vibrant smell of wild thyme and rosemary, a fragrance that was simultaneously sharp and sweet, with a distinct, almost medicinal undertone. The aroma was so rich, so concentrated, that it felt as though the very essence of the plants had been released in a single, generous breath. He stopped, his body momentarily still, his mind entirely consumed. He closed his eyes, letting the fragrance wash over him. Through him, he simply breathed, deeply and slowly, drawing the wild, potent aroma into his lungs, feeling it awaken something ancient and peaceful within him. The scent was both familiar and profoundly old. It reminded him of the herbs that grew on the hillsides back home. Yet, there was something more here, something deeper, as if this particular aroma were the very breath of the land itself. In that singular, suspended moment, a profound realization dawned upon him. This place was, at its very core, an ancient garden. It was alive, vibrant, and utterly indifferent to the struggles of men. Its cycles of growth continued. Its fragrant breath rose and fell, regardless of the human drama unfolding upon its surface. You take a slow, deep breath, as if you could smell the wild herbs yourself, their dry, sweet fragrance momentarily filling your own quiet room. The feeling of grounding that Thomas discovered on that hillside translates into the gentle, heavy stillness you feel in your own body. The security he found in connecting to the ancient earth is the same sense of security you feel now, held safely by the softness of your bed. You feel calm, secure, anchored in this peaceful space. The memory of that sun-warmed scent lingers, a sweet and herbal perfume that that seems to hang in the quiet air around you, as the powerful scent of the sun-warmed herbs begins to soften in the memory. Another sense awakens, listening for the first quiet sounds of the coming twilight. Your own world outside the window has fallen into a profound, almost sacred silence. The bustling activities of the day, the distant echoes of traffic, they have all receded, leaving behind a deep, enveloping quiet. You listen intently, not to an absence of sound, but to the subtle hums and gentle creaks of your own home settling. The soft whispers of a house breathing in the stillness of the night. The air in the room is cool against your skin, a gentle counterpoint to the cocoon of warmth beneath the covers. Your breathing is a slow, steady rhythm, an anchor in the deep quiet. With each soft exhale, a little more of the day dissolves. The story continues, the imagined page turning in your mind, shifting from the world of scent to the world of sound. As dusk began its slow descent over the rugged peninsula, the human sounds of the day began to fade. The distant shouts, the rhythmic clang of shovels against rock, they were replaced, almost imperceptibly at first, by a new sound. It started as a low hum, a subtle vibration you could feel more than hear, a faint tremor in the earth. But as the last sliver of the sun disappeared, the sound grew in volume, swelling and rising until it became an all-encompassing presence. It was the hypnotic chorus of millions of crickets and cicadas, a natural orchestra tuning up for its nightly performance. Thomas lay in the small, dark space of his clay bivvy, the cool earth a solid presence against his back. He listened. At first, it was just a wall of noise, a relentless, buzzing hum. But as he continued to listen, he began to discern the layers within it. It was a complex, living composition. He could hear the high, sharp chirps of individual crickets close by, a rhythmic, almost metallic clicking. Beneath that was the deeper, more resonant thrum of the cicadas, a steady, pulsing wave of sound that rose and fell like a slow breath. He began to hear intricate patterns, call and response, waves of sound that rippled across the gullies and ridges. He felt the subtle tremor of it in his chest, a low, resonant thrum connecting him to the teeming, unseen life of the land. Instead of being unsettling, he found the sound deeply calming. It was a powerful lullaby, a primal song that bypassed the thinking mind. The rhythmic chirping, a constant, gentle pulse, slowly pulled him away from the anxieties of the day and into the deep, restorative embrace of sleep. You listen again to the profound quiet of your own room, a silence that now feels richer, more resonant. The feeling of calm that Thomas found in that immersive sound is the same calm you feel now, wrapped in the stillness of your room. Your eyelids feel heavy, weighted with the sweet promise of deep, peaceful rest. The memory of that ancient, insectal chorus fades, leaving behind a deep and resonant quiet, a stillness that seems to hold the very echo of a song. In this profound silence, you become aware of the smallest sensations, a subtle shift in the air, the gentle weight of the blanket over you, and a faint, simple thirst, a quiet call from your body for refreshment. Your hand moves slowly, almost of its own accord, through the cool air of the room. Your fingers find the smooth, cool curve of a glass of water resting beside you. Its surface is beaded with tiny drops of condensation, each one a perfect, miniature world. You lift the glass, feeling its comforting, solid weight in your hand. The water inside is perfectly still. You bring it to your lips and take a slow, deliberate sip. The water is cool, a simple and profound pleasure. You feel it trace a refreshing path, a small, clean current that awakens a sense of quiet vitality within you. It is an uncomplicated, pure sensation. The feeling is one of cleansing, of a gentle, internal rinsing that seems to wash away the last, lingering dust of the day. Your breathing is slow and even. The air feels clean and cool as you inhale. And with each exhale, you feel yourself settling ever more deeply into the stillness. The feeling of the cool water sparks a transition in your mind, drawing forth the next imagined page of the journal. This memory speaks of a different kind of water, vast and boundless, a memory of the sea. Thomas remembered an afternoon of intense, shimmering heat. The sun was a relentless weight in a sky of bleached, cloudless blue. It baked the dry earth, turning every breath into a gritty experience. Then, a rare and blessed lull, a whispered word passed down the line, and the permission to make their way down to the secluded cove. He remembered the sheer relief of sitting on the warm sand to unlace his heavy, stiff boots, the leather gritty against his fingers. He stood for a moment, feeling the brilliant sunlight and the soft sea breeze on his bare skin, a sensation of pure freedom. He took cautious, deliberate steps into the cool, clear water. The initial shock of the chill on his ankles, then his calves, was a jolt of pure life, quickly replaced by an exhilarating refreshment. Each step deeper brought a greater sense of liberation. And then, with a final push, the complete, utter bliss of submerging himself entirely. The cool Aegean enveloped him, a gentle, weightless embrace that lifted the weariness from his body. He felt the dust and sweat of the long day simply dissolve into the vast, salty expanse, carried away by the gentle currents, floating on his back, with his eyes closed against the sun. The sounds that reached him were a soothing, rhythmic symphony. The gentle lapping of waves against the shore was a soft, hypnotic whisper. In the distance, he could hear the joyful shouts of other men, their voices echoing over the water. For that short while, they were simply boys again, splashing and floating under the warm, benevolent sun. A profound sense of calm refreshment settles over you now, as if the memory itself were a cool, gentle tide washing through you. The distant memory of laughter over the water lingers in your mind, a soft and gentle echo. It fades not into emptiness, but into a deeper, more profound quiet. The sound of the waves has receded, and what remains is a feeling of serene stillness. In this quiet, you become aware once more of the sanctuary of your room. You feel the gentle weight of the blanket, a comforting pressure that grounds you, making you feel secure and held. You take a slow, deep breath, and then another. The air you draw in is cool and clean, and as you exhale, you feel a subtle release, a letting go of a tension you didn't even know you were holding. Your body sinks a fraction deeper into the mattress, finding a new level of perfect, supported ease. The light in the room is muted, a gentle glow that asks nothing of your eyes. It is a stillness not of absence, but of presence, a quiet so complete you can almost feel its texture, like velvet against the skin. As this profound stillness deepens, your mind drifts to the next imagined page of the journal. The ink on the paper seems to describe this very same quality of silence, but on a vast and open hillside, under a canopy of unfamiliar stars. It is a memory of the quietest hours of the night. The memory begins with Thomas on watch. The night was a vast, inky canvas, so dark and clear that the Milky Way was a brilliant, shimmering river of light overhead. He sat with his back against the cool, solid earth of the trench wall. The air was utterly calm, without even the faintest whisper of wind. It was a silence so absolute that it seemed to have a weight of its own. In this deep hush, every small sound carried with an astonishing, bell-like clarity across the narrow strip of land that separated him from the Ottoman trench. He had expected the sounds of conflict, but the night offered something else entirely. What reached his ears were the simple, undeniable sounds of life continuing. First, a low cough, quickly muffled, but distinct in the stillness. Then, after a long pause, the low murmur of a conversation. The words themselves were indistinct, lost to the distance and the unfamiliar language. But the tone was unmistakable. It was gentle, almost companionable, a quiet sharing between two people in the dark. Thomas closed his eyes and just listened, not to the words, but to the music of the voices. And then another sound began to weave itself through the quiet. It was the soft, melodic humming of a folk tune. The melody was simple, a repetitive, soothing pattern. It was a sound that spoke of home, of quiet evenings, of a life lived far from this place. It was a sound of peace. Night after night, Thomas found himself listening for it, waiting for that gentle, wordless song to drift across the divide. He began to think of the unseen singer, not as an enemy, but as a person, a solitary individual keeping his own watch. He became his invisible neighbor, the watcher. He pictured him tracing the same patterns in the sky, feeling the same cool night air on his face. It was a powerful, unspoken connection, a shared humanity forged in the quiet. Profound darkness, this feeling of a quiet, unseen connection resonates within you now. The memory of that distant, humming tune seems to harmonize with the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. The solitude of your room no longer feels like being alone, but like being part of a vast, silent network of peaceful existence. You feel connected, not by words or actions, but by the simple, shared state of being. And in that deep and soothing quiet, you can almost hear the faint, lingering echo of a simple, wordless tune. This feeling of wordless communication deepens as you settle further into comfort. You become aware of your hands, resting now, completely relaxed. Your palms are open and your fingers are gently curled, a physical testament to the deep calm that has settled over you. Your mind drifts once more to the imagined pages of the old journal, the ink describing not a sound this time, but an object, a simple, tangible thing, a tin of plum jam, and the profound, unexpected gesture it inspired. The memory begins with Thomas holding a small, unexpected luxury. A care package had arrived, and with it, a tin of plum jam. Its sweetness, a rare and welcome presence. But as he sat with it in his small clay bivvy, he realized it was more than he needed. His gaze drifted across the scrubby, shadowed expanse that separated the trenches. He thought of his invisible neighbor, the watcher, and in that moment, a sudden, quiet impulse stirred within him. It was not a strategic thought, but a simple, human desire to share, to offer a small piece of sweetness into a world that felt so bitter. He found a piece of spare cloth, rough and worn, and carefully wrapped the heavy tin within its folds. He tucked the corners in, creating a soft cushion, hoping to soften its landing, to ensure its safe arrival, not as a projectile, but as a gift. He remembered the careful way he stood, rising slowly, exposing himself for just a moment to the vast, open sky. The air was calm. The world was quiet. Then, with a gentle, underhand motion, he launched it. It made a high, graceful arc against the pale blue sky, a silent, hopeful trajectory across the divide, before disappearing into the low, dry scrub on the other side. And then there was only silence, a deep, waiting silence that seemed to stretch and hum in the afternoon heat. He sat back down against the cool earth. His work done, he simply waited, feeling no anxiety, only a patient curiosity. A short while later, a sound. It was not loud or sharp, but a soft, almost imperceptible thud nearby, barely audible above the gentle hum of the cicadas. Lying in the dust, just a few feet away, was a small, dark bundle, tightly wrapped. He reached for it carefully, his movements slow and deliberate. Inside, nestled among the folds, was a handful of sweet, dried figs, their surfaces wrinkled and glistening with sugar. And beside them, a small, beautifully embroidered pouch. He lifted it to his nose. It was filled with fragrant Turkish tobacco, its scent rich and earthy, and completely new. It was a dialogue of shared humanity, conducted through small comforts. The sweetness of the figs was amplified by the generosity of the gesture. The fragrance of the tobacco carried a message of peace across the desolate ground. That feeling of a quiet, generous exchange translates now into a physical sensation of warmth and contentment that spreads through your own chest. You feel how the smallest acts, offered without expectation, can speak of empathy and shared understanding. The memory of that unexpected sweetness lingers, a gentle taste that seems to hang in the quiet air of your room. It is a feeling of quiet generosity, a warmth that settles deep within you. And in this deep and soothing quiet, you feel your own body responding, letting go, sinking ever deeper into rest. Your attention drifts softly to the darkness of your room, a gentle, enveloping black that feels less like an absence of light and more like a presence of calm. You feel the coolness in the air, a gentle touch on your skin, and with each slow, easy breath, your body seems to release another layer of the day. Your gaze turns inward to the imagined pages of the old journal, your mind tracing the ink that describes that very same sky. It is a sky seen from a different time and place, yet it is just as vast, just as silent. The memory begins on another night, with Thomas on watch. The air was cool and clean, a crisp caress against his skin. The sky above was perfectly, flawlessly clear, an unbroken expanse of deep, shimmering indigo, utterly free from the hazy glow of any city. There was no filter here, only the raw, unfiltered brilliance of the cosmos. He remembered leaning back against the cool, solid earth of the trench and tilting his head upwards. He wasn't just glancing. He was looking, truly looking. The sheer number of stars was breathtaking. It was not a scattering, but a dense, shimmering river of light, an impossible cascade of diamonds poured across black velvet, each one a tiny, distant sun burning with a silent, steady fire. A profound sense of awe washed over him, a feeling so immense it seemed to expand his chest, a humbling recognition of his own small, fleeting place in the grand, silent turning of the universe. As a shepherd from the remote, high country, Thomas knew the southern sky intimately. But here, the heavens were different. He searched for the comforting shape of the Southern Cross, but it was not there. Instead, with a slow, patient determination, he began to trace new patterns. He found the steadfast anchor of the North Star and used it to orient himself in this new celestial landscape. The memory is filled with a pervasive sense of infinite space, a boundless expanse, and a beautiful, profound silence that seemed to absorb all earthly noise. In that moment, under that boundless, glittering canopy, he felt his own existence, his own immediate troubles, become infinitesimally small. He was just one small shepherd, watching over his small piece of the world, under the same sky that watched over everything. That feeling of cosmic peace translates now into a physical sensation of release that spreads through your own body. You feel your own small worries dissolving into that imagined vastness. There is a sense of lightness, as if a weight you didn't know you were carrying has been gently lifted. The cool, clear air of that remembered night seems to linger around you, a silent promise of the deep, restorative peace that the darkness holds. This feeling of stillness settles gently over you, a soft, invisible blanket. You notice the subtle shift in temperature as the air enters and leaves, a gentle tide flowing through you, cleansing and calming with each cycle. The light in the room, even with your eyes closed, is a soft, warm presence, a color of deep rest. Your mind drifts back to the imagined journal. The narrative turns from the vast, silent canopy above to the resilient, living earth below. You picture an entry that speaks of a sudden, vibrant explosion of color, a quiet miracle of life. The memory begins as spring had fully and truly arrived on the peninsula. The once drab, sun-baked hillsides had erupted in unexpected patches of brilliant, living red. Thomas remembered finding a quiet, sheltered place to sit, simply to observe them. The memory was painterly, focused intently on the intense, almost unbelievable color. He described the vibrant scarlet of the petals, a red so rich and deep it seemed to hum with an inner light. They were like pieces of finely spun silk, impossibly thin and soft, unfurling against the newly verdant green of the spring grass. Each poppy, delicate and yet utterly resilient, stood as a silent testament to life's unwavering tenacity. Their stems were thin, covered in a fine, downy hair that caught the sunlight, making each one seem haloed in a soft, silvery glow. He watched, captivated, as a gentle breeze moved through the fields. It was a playful, invisible artist, making the poppies dance in gentle, undulating waves. A silent, crimson ballet performed across the landscape. Their fragile heads swayed in perfect unison, creating a living tapestry of color. His gaze then fell upon a butterfly. Its wings were a delicate mosaic of vibrant colors, deep, velvety blues, iridescent purples, and flashes of sunlit orange. It fluttered on an unseen current before landing. For a fleeting, weightless moment, on a single, perfect bloom, the flower dipped almost imperceptibly under the tiny weight. It was a tableau of fragile beauty, a perfect, fleeting moment of peace. He reached for his small notebook. With careful, deliberate strokes, his hand moving slowly so as not to disturb the quiet, he tried to sketch their delicate shape. It was an act of preservation, an attempt to hold onto this vibrant, life-affirming image, the warmth of that remembered sun, the soft light that illuminated those scarlet petals, seems to translate into a gentle warmth that spreads through your own body now. It is a feeling of quiet contentment, the kind of peace that comes from observing something simple and beautiful. The memory of that gentle, creative stillness remains, a quiet promise of the story yet to unfold. The memory of that gentle, creative stillness remains, a quiet promise of the story yet to unfold. The feeling lingers around you, as soft and subtle as the imagined scent of those scarlet flowers. This sense of peace deepens the tranquility of your own sanctuary, a space where the world outside can finally fall away, leaving only the profound quiet of this present moment. You feel the gentle weight of the blanket over you, a comforting pressure that grounds you. The air in the room is cool and still, a soft presence against your skin. You follow the easy, unhurried rhythm of your own breath, an inhale that brings with it a sense of calm, and a long, slow exhale that carries away any lingering tension. There is nothing to do, nowhere to be, but here, in this cocoon of quiet and comfort. Your thoughts drift back to the pages of the journal. The narrative shifts from the silent beauty of the poppies to a memory carried on sound. It was a sound that resonated with the very essence of home. The memory that unfolds is of a game played on a rare, flat patch of ground affectionately nicknamed Shell Green. Thomas remembered the afternoon light, how it had turned the landscape a soft, hazy gold, bathing the scene in a warm, dreamlike glow. He recalled the quiet camaraderie of the men. Their movements were relaxed and purposeful as they cleared the space, removing stones and prickly scrub, smoothing the earth to create a suitable pitch. The focus of this vivid recollection was entirely on the sounds, a symphony of gentle, familiar noises. First and foremost, there was the clean, satisfying thwack of the willow bat as it connected squarely with the hard leather ball. It was a sound that spoke of summer afternoons and village greens, a sound of precision and sport. It echoed softly in the natural amphitheater of the valley, a singular, hopeful note in the vast silence. Then came the easy, unforced calls between the players, their voices light and free, and above it all, the sound of shared laughter, genuine and unrestrained, that bubbled up from deep within them. For one glorious afternoon, under the watchful, ancient gaze of the time-scented hills, they were no longer soldiers. They were simply young men, absorbed in the gentle joy of a game they loved, a game that connected them to their homes, to their childhoods. This simple act of play was a testament to the enduring human spirit, the warmth of that remembered afternoon sun seems to find you now, a gentle heat that spreads through your limbs, the memory of that simple, hopeful sound, the clean, wooden thwack of the bat on the ball, lingers in the quiet air, a gentle echo of resilience. You let that echo fade slowly, without any effort, allowing it to dissolve back into the deep stillness of the room. As it disappears, another sound begins to form in your imagination, a sound just as ancient and perhaps even more soothing. It is the sound of a gentle rain, the soft, rhythmic drumming on a distant roof, a tranquil melody that speaks of cleansing and renewal. This feeling of gentle release deepens as you settle further into comfort. You notice the subtle weight of the blanket, a reassuring presence. The air in the room is still and cool. Your jaw unclenches. Your hands feel warm and heavy, and your whole body seems to welcome this invitation to let go. The world has been gently placed on pause, allowing you this time to simply rest. Your thoughts drift back to the pages of the journal. The narrative shifts from the golden light of that afternoon game to a different kind of light, a different kind of sound. The journal entry speaks of a real rain, a sudden, powerful summer storm. Thomas's memory was of a swift and dramatic change. One moment, the sun beat down from a relentless sky. The next, a shadow had fallen over the land. The air grew thick and heavy with moisture, charged with the clean, electric scent of impending rain. A hush fell over the valley, the chirping of the cicadas ceasing, as if the whole world were holding its breath. Then it came, not a cold drizzle, but a warm, heavy downpour, a deluge that fell with an almost deliberate intensity, as if the sky itself were sighing in relief. He remembered that instead of running for shelter, a quiet impulse compelled him to simply stand still. He tilted his face to the sky, closing his eyes, allowing the full force of the rain to wash over him. He could feel the heavy, warm drops soaking his uniform instantly, washing away weeks of accumulated dust and grime. It wasn't cold. It was a profound cleansing, a feeling of being stripped back to something essential and clean. The air filled with the fresh, clean smell of the damp earth, a rich, fertile aroma that rose up to meet him. It mingled with the revitalized scent of the wild thyme and rosemary, now awakened by the life-giving moisture. The sound was a powerful, all-encompassing symphony. Millions of drops drummed on the parched ground, pattered on the waxy leaves of the olive scrub, and hissed against the clay walls. It was a natural percussion that drowned out all other noises. He opened his eyes and looked through the shimmering, silver curtain of rain towards the other ridge. And in that moment, a thought came to him, clear and simple. He imagined the watcher, his invisible neighbor. He pictured him standing in that very same rain, perhaps also pausing, perhaps also tilting his own face to the sky. He imagined them both sharing in this great, impartial washing of the world. The rain made no distinction. It simply fell, a universal balm on the thirsty land, cleansing and renewing everything it touched. A sense of that same calm release finds you now, as if the gentle rain from Thomas's memory has washed through your own mind, clearing away the last remnants of the day. The feeling of release settles deep within you, a quiet current carrying you towards a tranquil shore. The feeling of that great, cleansing wash remains, a quiet freshness that seems to linger in the still air around you. It's a feeling of renewal, a sense of having been gently rinsed clean. A peaceful presence settles over you like a cool, soft sheet, inviting a deeper and more profound state of rest. You follow this invitation without question. Your breathing is now very slow and deep. With each inhale, you draw in the stillness, and with each long, slow exhale, you release a little more. Your body feels heavy and comfortable, sinking into the soft support beneath you. You are completely at ease, your mind quiet and open, a still pool reflecting the profound peace of this moment. Your thoughts drift from the feeling of cool rain to a different kind of warmth, a different kind of light. You picture the flickering, dancing flame of a single candle in a small clay shelter, its fragile light casting long, shifting shadows on the curved walls. And in that intimate glow, you imagine Thomas writing a letter home. Thomas was in his bivvy, the cool clay walls offering a quiet sanctuary. The only illumination came from a single, sputtering candle. Its tiny flame was a beacon in the encompassing darkness, casting a warm, unsteady glow on the precious sheet of paper before him. He was writing a letter home, a fragile paper lifeline connecting him to a world of green fields and familiar skies. The memory focused not on what was happening around him, but entirely on the world he chose to create with his words. This letter was not a chronicle of hardship. Instead, it was an act of profound curation, a careful gathering of beautiful things. He wrote about a sunset he had witnessed, a spectacle of breathtaking beauty. He described the sky painted in streaks of deep, royal violet and brilliant, molten gold. He wrote about the simple, unexpected sweetness of the dried figs his invisible neighbor had sent him. He described their chewy texture and honeyed taste, a small act of generosity that spoke a language far older than words. He wrote about the hardy little donkey that tirelessly carried water up the steep paths. He described its steady, deliberate gait, its soft, dark eyes, and the quiet dignity of its labor. He chose these moments, these fragments of beauty and humanity, to share with his loved ones. It was a deliberate act of storytelling, of preserving only the glimmers of peace. In his letter, he was building a shelter for them, just as he had built one for himself from the clay. This letter was an act of love, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to find beauty even in the most desolate of gardens. The quiet strength of that act reaches you now. A feeling of gentle contentment spreads through you, a soft warmth that settles in your chest, as if the glow from Thomas's candle has found its way into your own heart. Your own thoughts begin to soften, drifting gently, carried by the quiet strength of his carefully chosen words. And as you rest in this peaceful stillness, your thoughts drift to a different kind of quiet. Not just the quiet of rest, but a silence that was built, piece by piece, with immense care and intention. You imagine the journal pages describing a hush that was created, a deliberate, careful silence in preparation for a departure as soft and imperceptible as a single leaf letting go of its branch. Thomas remembered the rumors finally solidifying into a quiet reality. They were leaving, but this would be no hurried retreat. It was to be a feat of silence, an operation so meticulously planned that it felt like a sacred ritual. The air itself seemed different, thicker, as if it were absorbing every sound. Thomas's task was a strange and gentle one. He was assigned to a team responsible for muffling the hooves of the mules. The patient, hard-working animals. He remembered the feel of the thick, coarse army blankets, heavy and rough in his hands. He worked in the dim, flickering light of a few carefully shielded lanterns, his movements slow and deliberate. He remembered approaching the first mule, the animal's large, dark eyes watching him with a calm and trusting patience. He would run his hand along its sturdy leg, a silent reassurance, before carefully wrapping the heavy wool around its hoof. He secured the thick padding with strips of cloth, knotting them firmly but gently. One by one, they transformed the animals. The sound of a hoof on stone, that familiar, sharp clatter, was erased, replaced by a soft, dull thud, a sound that was swallowed almost instantly by the night. There were no shouted orders. Communication was a quiet choreography of gestures, of knowing glances exchanged in the lantern light, of instructions spoken in whispers that were barely more than a breath. The entire operation felt like a respectful leaving. They were guests tiptoeing out of a sleeping house, trying with every ounce of their being not to wake the host. The land itself felt like that sleeping host, an ancient presence that had sheltered them, and they were now relinquishing their claim, leaving it to its own deep slumber. The feeling of that focused, deliberate quiet finds a resonance within you now. The shared intention of those men, their gentle, careful movements, all translate into a profound sense of calm that settles deep in your body. It's the feeling of letting go, not with a sense of loss, but with a sense of peaceful release. Just as they prepared to leave that land to its own quiet healing, you feel yourself preparing to leave the waking day behind, letting it go with a gentle, unspoken farewell. Every muffled footstep, every quiet breath became part of a collective effort to fade away, to dissolve back into the night without a trace. That deep and gentle hush hangs in the air around you, a quiet pause that has settled within the very atmosphere of your own room. The story continues to move, but you are perfectly still, resting on the soft threshold between wakefulness and sleep. The story returns to that final night, a night imbued with a strange, quiet magic. Thomas remembered one of his last tasks. He was helping to set up a drip rifle. But in the quiet of the night, this device was a marvel of ingenuity. He watched as another soldier carefully suspended a can of water above an empty one. A tiny hole allowed a slow, steady drip to begin, each drop falling with a soft plink into the can below. Thomas watched the steady, rhythmic fall of water in the dim moonlight. To him, this strange machine felt less like a weapon and more like a clock. It was a water clock, marking the final moments of their presence on this ancient land. Each drop was a second, a minute, a quiet beat in the slow, silent countdown. There was no menace in it, only a patient, mechanical process, a final, clever whisper before the great silence fell. Once his part was done, he felt a quiet pull to return to one specific place. He made his way back to a small clay bivvy. He paused at the low entrance, his silhouette framed against the stardusted sky. For months, this small hollow in the earth had been his home, his sanctuary. He reached out a hand and laid his palm flat against the wall. The clay was cool and smooth beneath his touch, solid and real. He felt the silent strength of the earth that had sheltered him. Then, taking a small knife, he began to carve. The blade moved slowly, with immense care, into the firm clay. He wasn't thinking, only feeling, letting his hand trace a shape that lived deep within him. It was the delicate, spiraling shape of a fern frond. The karu, a symbol of his distant home, of new life and peace. The image emerged from the wall, a pale ghost in the darkness, a quiet echo of the green forests left here on a dry hillside. It was a humble offering, a personal, unspoken thank you to the earth itself. The quiet dignity of that simple act resonates within you now. The feeling of leaving a place with respect, with a small token of thanks, settles into your own body as a gentle, spreading warmth. It is the feeling of gratitude for your own safe and quiet place of rest, for the comfort and security that surrounds you completely. Thomas gave the carving one last look, a secret left for the wind and for the unseen watcher. He then turned away, melting back into the shadows. You are now on the very threshold of sleep, suspended in that quiet, liminal space. Your mind is calm, utterly still. The day's concerns have receded like a gentle tide, pulling away from a silent shore. All that remains is this profound and simple presence, this feeling of being held safely in the heart of the night. The story has reached its final page, and you can feel a sense of completion settling over you, a soft and gentle letting go. You are ready to surrender completely to the deep and welcoming embrace of slumber. The final entry in the imagined journal was not from the land, but from the sea, a perspective of quiet distance and gentle release. Thomas was on the transport ship, its engines humming a low, steady and hypnotic rhythm as it pulled away from the cove. The night was deep and moonless, a vast, inky canvas that allowed the stars to burn with an impossible brightness. They were a fine, diamond dust scattered across the velvet black. He stood at the cool, salt-dampened rail, his hands resting on the wood, his gaze fixed on the receding shore. He saw only the silent silhouette of the peninsula, a familiar, jagged outline against that stardusted sky. There were no fires burning, no panicked shouts, only the silent departure. The great and gentle stunt had been a success. It was a triumph of quiet, a ghostly retreat that left the land undisturbed. The only sounds were the gentle, rhythmic lapping of the waves against the ship's hull, a soft and soothing lullaby, and the quiet, persistent hum of the engine, a steady pulse carrying them onward, further into the night. A light breeze, soft and cool, blew from the land, and it carried with it, one last time, a faint, sweet, herbal scent. It was the unmistakable, enduring fragrance of wild thyme, mingled with the subtle notes of rosemary. It was the very scent that had first welcomed him. It felt now like a final, poignant farewell from the earth itself, a last, gentle blessing carried across the water. In that moment, Thomas felt no lingering trace of hatred. Those feelings had dissolved, replaced by a deep and powerful wave of gratitude. Gratitude for his survival, and a quiet blessing for the land that had held them, and a blessing for the watcher, his invisible neighbor who remained behind, a silent guardian of those time-scented hills. The ship sailed further and further into the vast, silent expanse of the night, carrying him not away from a memory, but with it, transformed into peace. This feeling of profound gratitude, of a quiet and peaceful release, resonates within you now. It is not a thought, but a physical sensation, a gentle wave of warmth that begins in your chest and spreads slowly outward, reaching the tips of your fingers and toes. It is the feeling of a journey completed, of a story brought to its gentle close. The memory of the ship on the dark water begins to dissolve. The gentle, rhythmic lapping of the waves merges seamlessly with the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. The faint, imaginary scent of wild thyme fades into the simple, clean stillness of the air in your room, and the image of the vast, stardusted sky slowly melts back into the soft, warm darkness behind your eyelids. The story is complete. All that remains is the profound and gentle peace it has left behind. The journey is over. The ship of the story has reached its safe and quiet harbor. And so can you. There is nothing left to do now. Nothing left to see. All that is required is to allow the gentle current of sleep to carry you. Feel the gentle weight of true relaxation settle over you like the softest blanket. You are safe to rest here. The breath knows the way. Let yourself drift now into the deep, calm, and healing waters of slumber.